in 2006, the only culturally and linguistically specific one-stop center targeting the increasingly diverse and rapidly growing number of African immigrants and refugees living in Oregon. Please help me welcome Djimet Dogo. Welcome. So tell us about yourself, Djimet.
Wow, that's very tough questions. So again, my name is Djimet Dogo, D-J-I-M-E-T. I always have to spell it because people think that it's American Jimmy. But it's, I was born on Friday, so it's deformation from Arabic word Juma, and that's why they call me Jimmy. But on my birth certificate, you will see Chuma. But I like Jimmy, it's easy. I came from Chad 20 years ago. Before coming to United States, I was human rights activist, able to bring, factions, Muslim, Christian, North, South together. And from there, I got an opportunity to go to Strasbourg, to International Institute of Human Rights, to study human rights and nonviolence conflict resolutions. And from there, I got an opportunity to go to Stadschleining, which is in Austria, European Peace University, to study peace building. And that's how I got an opportunity to go to Bosnia, Croatia, Slovenia, Hungary during the war there to work with grassroots organization on peace building and conflict transformations. I came back to Chad, and I got an opportunity through the American Embassy in Chad to send me to Johannesburg to spend 90 days from, I was invited by the Coalition of Peace in Africa to spend 90 days with Mandela and Thabo Mbeki during the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions. So I used this skill when I came here, I used this skill experience to bring the different African warring faction living in Poland to start thinking about coming together and create a community center that will be providing culturally specific service to our community instead of, falling apart. So IRCO hired me for 30 days to help them, and 20 years later, I'm still here. and then I established Africa House in 2006. Yeah.
How? Tell us a little bit about your own journey to the United States, and that moment when you decided, this is where I'm going to be. This is where I want to be.
Yes. Again, as I said, as a human rights activist, it's a challenge with dealing with dictatorship regime. So in 1999. The Chadian president, by decree, decided that anybody suspected of robbery should be extrajudicially executed. So many people were executed. And the case that hurt a lot was 9 people were suspected of stealing a cow. And those people were brought to the public space and were executed, even though they found a cow. And then their body were left for 3 days as deterrence to the community. So I went there and took picture of those corpses, of those 9 bodies, and I wrote a report to Amnesty International, and I sent the report through American Embassy, because my organization, Chad Nonviolence, is funded by the National Endowment for Democracy in Washington, D.C. So I sent a copy to the Department of State through the American Embassy, and then I sent a copy to the European Union, asking them to freeze all the assistance they're giving to the Chadian government for the democratization of Chadian regime. So the Prime Minister of Chad and I traveled to the Council of Europe to present the case, because the Prime Minister denying the case. So I had all the evidence, the pictures, and all those. So we went to Strasbourg in front of the European Parliament. I presented the case. So when I came back, the Chadian government accusing me of a spy working on behalf of a foreign country. So they sent the Secret Service police to my office. I wasn't there at that time. The American embassy sent me to the newly elected member of parliament to give workshop on democracy and good governance. So I wasn't there, but my assistant was at the office. So they killed my assistant and then took the body to the morgue. And the next thing at the radio broadcasting as TV, Djimet was killed. So the American embassy decided to send me to South Africa. And then from the South Africa, they brought me to Congo. But I decided to come back to Chad, and they said, the American embassy said they will not be able to protect me while I'm still in Chad. So they decided to send me to George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, to study conflict transformation. So that's how the Department of State brought me to, and then from George Mason University, I was given 12 tickets to travel different states to talk about African democracy and good governance. So I was invited in Portland, in Oregon, by Jeff Mercury, at that time was the director of World Affairs Council, to speak at Portland State. So that's how I came to Oregon. And then when I came to Oregon, I met a Chadian who, in the audience, followed me at the hotel and want to know about my last name. So I explained to him, and actually he's my cousin that I've been looking for him. Because when you leave, Africa, especially like a Chad, they think United States is just, hey, you have a cousin living in America, look for him. So
you found him.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
So that's how I decided to go to New York, Subcommission Human Rights, United Nations Subcommission of Human Rights. I had the meeting, and then I came back. And then the American Embassy sent a fax. I said, you need to seek asylum in the United States because we cannot protect you. So I applied for asylum for 2 months, and then my asylum was granted, and I ended up living here. But the challenge is to bring my family. I have a wife and 2 kids, so the government will not let them leave the country. So I have to reach out to Gordon Smith, the Republican senator at that time, was able to reach out to American Embassy and ask American Embassy to pick my family, wife and 2 kids, cross the border to Cameroon, brought them to American Embassy in Cameroon, and from there I sent ticket, and then they flew in 2001 to come to Portland. That's how I get to Portland.
That's your story. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. Yeah.
You mentioned asylum, and that word and that concept has been at the center of so much controversy in our country over the last several years, especially as it relates to asylum seekers at the southern border. Can you speak to the asylum process and the barriers that people seeking it are encountering with the current administration, whether they're coming through the southern border from other places?
Yes, seeking asylum with this administration is really challenging. So many of those people seeking asylum are running away from persecution, just like the story that I just told you. Their life are threatened, and they decide to leave their home country and seek, a safe haven somewhere else. In the past, it's easy to seek asylum, but right now, people all over the world are coming through the southern border. So in the past, you enter the United States through different visa, either visitor visa, student visa, and all those. And then once you are inside, you can apply for asylum to change your status. But for people who are coming from the southern border, it's not easy. You have to prove that if you are sent back, like your life is threatened and all those. In the past, you just walk in, you come to SOAR, the ecumenical services, you find somebody, a lawyer will help you apply for asylum. Now you cannot do that. You can do this on your own, but in order for an organization like SOAR to help you, you have to get a permission from DHS in order to apply for asylum. And it makes things really hard for people who are at the border. For instance, when people talk about the asylum seeker at the southern border, most people just think about, Mexican, Venezuelan, people coming from South America. But currently, there is about 565 African at the southern border. I'm working with 11 of them who were able to get asylum. they cross. They are now here in Poland, but it's hard for them to get, IDs. Even though they were granted asylum, they have authorization, to work, but yet it's hard to get from a DMV because those people don't have any documentation that has their picture in it. They don't have a passport. People just fled their home country and then were able to come in because of life-threatening event. So those are the challenges that those people are facing. If you are seeking asylum, you are not like a refugee. You don't get assistance. So you're on your own unless you have a churches or a family member helping you. So people who get an opportunity to come in, they have to rely on churches, to rely on volunteers like you, helping them, giving them space, giving them support, and then helping them connect with lawyers that may help them pro bono. So those are the challenges that we are facing. Comparing to before this current administration.
Yeah. If Portlanders want to get involved in either helping people who are recently arrived in the country, or addressing some of the policy barriers that you talked about. So people need documentation, but they can't get it. Those are these structural barriers that policymakers have put in place.
Yeah.
Where can the public go? Where can people interested in supporting our values in this?
So people interested in supporting refugees or newly arrived immigrants or asylees is they can check on IRCO website, the Immigrant Refugee Community Organization, to check. We have volunteer coordinators. We have also our development department. There is one here taking pictures. Reach out to them. She has her business card. So you reach out to us, reach out to our organization, we will connect you. You can also reach out to resettlement agency like Catholic Charity or Lutheran Community Services for help. You can also volunteer to help those people who are struggling. Even though refugee number is reduced, but there is still refugees coming. We need volunteer to help them navigate the system, to understand how to take public transportation and also using appliances, learning ESL and all that. We have a lot of need in the community to help those refugees to become self-sufficient. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you want to volunteer and to advocate for policy change, don't hesitate to reach out to your legislator, your representative, your senators, and all those. Push for it. In the past, the Congress, decide the ceiling of refugee coming in the United States, but this current administration is the White House that make a decision, decide unilaterally, like for this 2020, only 18,000 refugees will be allowed to come to the United States. But in the past, it's the Congress that proposed the ceiling and send it to the president for signature. So those are the things that you can push for policy change through your senator or through your representative.
There has been an increase in violent acts by right-wing extremists focused on immigrants and other groups. And the FBI just had a big article in the New York Times about it. It's become a focus in law enforcement circles, these domestic terrorism toward immigrants. Are you seeing troubling patterns in the community? How is that vitriol and that potential violence impacting the immigrant community that you work with?
Of course, we have our family, people insulting them while they're crossing the street, people throwing egg on them when they're crossing. I have my own employees who crossing between Africa House and IRCO been throwing egg on them. Particularly our sisters from the Middle East community or the Somali community who are covered. They're very vulnerable because they can be seen, they're covered, they're wearing their hijab and all that. They've been attacked all the time. And some of them don't even report those kind of hate crime, even though we have a small funding from the city through the Portland United Against Hate. People are so scared to reporting those kind of hate crime. So we are working with the community to educate them. If they face this kind of hate, and should reach out to us. We have an instance where people are demonstrating in front of IRCO because they don't want a refugee, they hate refugees, they hate everybody else that don't look like them. We have personal stories where people, just stop, you look like immigrant, you have an accent, you don't look like them, they just attack you, saying things. So, and since the stabbing at the Max 2 years ago, so many of our family are so scared to take public transportation in Poland. So many of our family have to go, when this thing happened, and it happened during the second executive order, we have a family that asked for chaperone just to go to Winco because they're so scared. So those are the situations that our family are living in. They're very scared. They, some of them don't even trust the law enforcement. They think that the law enforcement may not intervene quickly to help them. Therefore, people are just, especially when it's come to Friday prayer, because this is where you see most of the Somali women, men, all dressing in clothes that are very distinctive. Anybody can see them. So we have those challenges. We have people going to different Somali mosques, putting graffitis at the mosque and all those. So there is really real fear in our community, and particularly for our daughters, our sisters who are covered, they're very vulnerable to those attacks.
It's very troubling.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wish this audience, either in the room or listening at home, would know about the immigrant experience in Portland that we haven't talked about?
One of the things that people have to know is refugees who are coming here, and what you hear in the media, through the media and in public, that refugees are costly, they're taking everything, from the government, they're on welfare and all those. Those refugees, when they come here, they contribute economically. They're hard workers. I am also manager of Refugee Employment Services for the last 20 years. I've been working with Refugee Employment Services. We work with over 12,000, employers. Rarely refugees just change job or quit for nothing. So they're hard workers, they're very loyal employees. And also, the increase of the housing is affecting refugees a lot, because no matter if some of them have to work 2-3 jobs, but it still is hard for them to pay the rent. So we have so many families are moving to Eastern Oregon, for instance, Ontario, Eastern Oregon. We have over 200 now refugees moved to Eastern Oregon, and since 2015. So now last year we opened an office in Ontario. I'm going there tomorrow morning to visit those families. So in 2015, the host community, I met with every single service provider in the host community in Ontario. People were resistant. Who are those people? We don't know them. Are they terrorists? Who are the Iraqi? Who are the Syrian? Or the Somali? Why are they covering? We don't have anything for our people. Why we got to help those people? And then just last month when I was there, everybody was happy. Thank you for bringing those people, because all the undocumented people left. Now we have them in the farm. You see a young 22 years old Sudanese girl driving this machine that harvests onion, and people were so happy. They said, can you bring them more? Because, so now 98% of refugees in Ontario, they all have a job. They all work like 10, 12-hour shift, 6 days a week. They're all off welfare because of the job that they have. And most of them don't even want to come back to Poland because they're self-sufficient down there. The only challenge is there is no resources. There is no ethnic, stores and all those. But we work with WINCO locally there to provide a small section of halal meat for those refugees. So once refugee come to an area, the whole area changes. Now in Ontario, you have a food card, Mediterranean food card. So those are the things that the refugee bring with them. Don't just listen to what you hear in the media, and some of the media you don't see the positive contribution of refugees. How many billions does refugee contribute in tax to our economy? You don't see those. The only thing you see is the negative aspect. Another challenge we're facing right now with this current administration, there is 51 refugee resettlement agencies are closed. 47 now are pending. Any agency that cannot resettle more than 100 refugees in their area should be shut down. So it's making harder for some of those refugees where they have only one organization providing them services and then was shut down. So those refugees will decide to move to Poland, to move to Ontario, and move out of those areas where those agencies are being shut because of this current administration. So those are the challenges that refugees are facing. They're moving more to a rural area, Salem, Marion County, and now we have them in Lane County. That's why we need a lot of volunteers. For the first time in the history of Ashland, we have the first Somali family in Ashland. So, so refugees just keep moving to rural area where they have a job and housing. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Dogo, we are out of time. Thank you so much for your incredible work and story and commitment to the community.
Yeah. So again, before I leave, I have my development people here, Enka, if you have a question. And I have also Africa House Vice Chair Board is here. Going to recruit you guys for Africa House Board. So Laura is here. So if you want to know more about Africa House or IRCO, just talk to Laura. And I have also the business manager of Africa House, Dr. Michael Hanley, and my professor and an advisor, Dr. Annie Gill. Because of her, I am where I am. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. We welcome you to continue the conversation. There's still some food left. Just wanted to say how grateful we are to everyone who made this evening's discussion so powerful. Thank you to our speakers, Peg, Sandine, and Mr. Dogo. And thank you to all of you, for joining us today and making City Club the incredible space that it is. Thank you.